Hello, welcome back. Today I'm going to be talking about ratings and in particular how the UK viewership estimations don't really relate to the kinds of ratings that you get on online websites where users are ranking episodes and saying how well they love them. So let's first have a look at this top graph here, which is talking about the estimated number of UK viewers. This is in the millions, and we've got time going over here, so we've got the rebooted series over here, the 2005 series that Russell T Davies rebooted the show with. So that's series 1, and then we've got series 2, 3, 4. So this is the David Tennant era, and then we have the Matt Smith era, series 5, 6, 7. These series were broken in half, which is why there's a gap there. And then we had the Peter Capaldi era over here with series 8, 9, and 10. And you can see that the numbers bounce around a bit. Also, we can see that the first episode of any particular Doctor is always very highly watched. As you can see, when the show was rebooted, Christopher Eccleston's first episode was very highly watched, and then the second episode was not as highly watched. And in fact, this pattern repeats with all of the Doctors. The first episode of a Doctor is generally watched more than the second episode. And so you can see that there's always a bit of a gap there. That's a normal thing, and I think the right way to think about this is to think of this as a bonus. Okay, I've seen people on the internet saying, "Oh my gosh, episodes, the ratings have been high and then they've dropped." Actually, that's the wrong way to think about it. These were always going to be a bonus. The normal viewership, the people, the fans, the regular watchers of the show are not the only ones watching that first episode. There's going to be members of the general public who've tuned in out of curiosity, right? There's always a bit of media hype leading up to a new Doctor. And so these first episodes are always a little bit special. And so the right way of thinking of this is that first episode gets a bonus of a few million viewers, a few million extra viewers, because these were never going to be the long-term viewers. So that extra viewership there is a little bit deceptive. So really, you shouldn't look at that first episode of any particular new Doctor as being indicative of what's going to happen. Another thing I wanted to point out in this graph is that the numbers do bounce around quite a lot. They can, on rare occasions, end up in a place which is higher than how the season started, but oftentimes it's fairly level with how the season started, and usually that's because you have the people watching at the start where something interesting is developing. Some people stop watching during the middle of the season. They get busy. There's other things on, and then there's a bit of a season finale towards the end, which builds into something interesting, and so people start tuning in again. So you end up with this kind of rough bathtub curve. Another thing I want to point out about these numbers is that there's actually a visual change between the kinds of numbers that we've got here in the first up to about mid-season 7, and then the numbers after there the curves are actually a lot smoother. Now, I think the reason for that is that the way that they estimated the number of viewers earlier on in the show's history was that they would have a few hundred households around the country which they would sample. And so depending on whether there was something else on that led people to not be in that night looking at the television set, these numbers could actually bounce around quite a lot because they're estimated only on the basis of a few hundred households. Whereas once you start incorporating the internet data, I'm not sure that that's exactly what's happened, but I think that I suspect strongly that that's what's happened. Once you incorporate the internet downloads, where you can actually have information about every single download that's happened, you can incorporate that information and integrate it in with the household data, and you end up with these much smoother curves. So these numbers over here are probably a lot more accurate in terms of who's actually watching the show. Now, I want to want you to have a look at the IMDb scores, because these scores are actually asking people how well liked particular episodes were. And I'm going to take you through this and just show you that this is kind of a measure of how well regarded the episodes are. So let's just click on that graph and have a look at some of these episodes. So we've got episodes like The Empty Child and The Doctor Dances, which is very highly regarded. The Girl in the Fireplace. Season finales like Army of Ghosts and Doomsday. And here's Blink, very well regarded episode. And Silence in the Library, Forest of the Dead, and so on. And you can see that there's a lot of episodes here which are very highly regarded. The Day of the Doctor, of course. The 50th anniversary special. We've got Heaven Sent up there. And it's the season finales tend to be highly regarded as well. I've color-coded this graph, so what you can see is that we've got there's a whole lot of episodes are in red. Those episodes are the Stephen Moffat episodes. The episodes back here in pink are the Russell T Davies episodes. So he was the showrunner during the first 4 seasons and for the specials, the David Tennant specials, and they're both brilliant writers. Russell T Davies wrote a lot of really good episodes, and if you look at the ratings down the side here, you can see that a lot of them are 8.0 or above. In fact, if you look at season 4, the golden season, everything was 7.6 or above. Right, every single episode, right? Normally you get a few dud episodes in the seasons, the Fear Hers and the Sleep No Mores, but a lot of these episodes in Doctor Who are actually above 7.5. In fact, there's a lot that are above 8.5. And if you look at where certain writers tend to be regarded, they can be up 8.5 and 9.0. This is why people love this show so much. There are some absolutely mind-blowingly brilliant episodes. So, Stephen Moffat had written some very well-regarded episodes in the first 4 seasons. So he was a very logical choice to take over as the showrunner after that, because both he and Russell T Davies were very strong writers. Russell T Davies built the show into a very big ensemble piece, and he wrote some really great season finales. But the point I want to make in this video is just to talk about how these two graphs here are very, very different. If you look at Blink, the best regarded, most highly regarded episode in the show's history, have a look at its rating here in terms of the number of viewers who were estimated to watch it. It's actually got the equal lowest rating in season 3. Silence in the Library, the lowest rating in season 4, right? Even though it was one of the highest rated episodes in the season. Have a look at some of these season finale episodes, and the Empty Child and the season finale, the lowest ratings in the season. All right, there's a number of reasons why these graphs don't look anything alike. The number of people who are tuning into a particular episode is somewhat random, but it's also dependent on what's gone in the past. It's actually not dependent on what happened in this particular episode. It's actually very much dependent on what's gone in the past. So there's a number of factors that I want to talk about. It can be related to media hype and advertising, to what happened last week, to how people are liking the writing of the season overall, the chemistry between the characters, how fun the show has been in previous episodes and previous seasons, spoilers and next time teasers, and whether there are returning characters or villains, as well as many other factors, including whether there's a football match on. So the ratings, in terms of the number of viewers, is actually it's a very gross estimate. It's a bit random, and it's often extrapolated from only a few households, at least in the early stage of the show. But also, any particular episode's rating is actually not dependent on how good that episode is. It's actually very much dependent on things that have happened in the past. And this is why these two graphs actually aren't correlated at all. They're really not a good indicator of how well loved an episode is. You can't just look at the viewer numbers. You've actually got to look at a direct measure, such as the IMDb score, to really get an idea of how well loved an episode is. So I hope that that's helped explain why looking at the viewership numbers are really not a good indicator of the quality of the show or how well loved episodes are. Thanks for watching. I'm Dr. Howell. Talk to you next time. Bye.